We're going to research a property from the main portal. All right, you're in the main portal. You've just logged in. This is what the screen looks like. You're going to research a property. And condo and residential are the two statuses that we have. We don't do multifamily or farm, acreage properties or commercial. The concept of precise pricing allows for what we consider the majority types of transactions are done through condominiums as well as residential. And that's where the concept also works best regarding movements in the economy. So let's go ahead and research a property. All right, we're going to go to a particular property here, and here we go. I'm going to key that information in. It's a residential. Hit continue here, and you can see this property was purchased back in 1999 for $310,000. What we're going to do is to see what the value is based on what we call the Bryan search, the comps and the charts and the graphs, and basically to make sure that you're equipped for your buyer or your seller presentation. By the way, if you notice that the property price may not be correct, this is fed out of the MLS, but perhaps the property was new construction and the price was not in the MLS, you do have the ability to go in here and actually change the price for your analysis. Or if the seller said they stole the property or something like that, they paid $310, they said it was really worth $340, well, you can actually go in here and edit the price. It's just a rare thing you might need to do, but you'll find sellers who the house appraised for a particular number in 2006, but they bought the property in 1980. Well, 1980's value would be really irrelevant, but they have an appraisal from 2006. You could just come in here and change the price. So let's go ahead and do our first search on this property called a Bryan search. What's happening right now is the software program has gathered up other properties that were purchased around the same time as the subject property for about the same amount as the subject property. Remember, these are what's called Bryan comps. A Bryan comp means the property that are here, they had been purchased under the following three conditions. They're in the same radius as the subject property. They were purchased around the same year as the subject property, in this case almost the exact same month as the subject property, and for a similar amount as the subject. The subject was purchased for around $300,000, and what we found is other properties were within 20% of the purchase price of the subject. Now, if you think these price points are too far away from the subject, remember they paid around $310 to be specific. If you think these property values are too far apart to be comps, then just don't use them in your analysis. All we're trying to do is look for properties who were purchased again around the same radius, the same year, for about the same dollar amount, and we want to see what type of movement in the economy there has been. You noticed I've checked a record down here. Excuse me, it gave me a value of $401,892. And that first homeowner, this is a sold property, gained about 2% per year. This property here gained about 1%. Remember, these don't have to be the same style as the subject property. They just have to be purchased. Traditional comps are style-based comps. These are Bryan-based comps. Same year, same radius, about the same amount, and now they've resold and entered the marketplace again. And of course, your customer is about to list their property or about to purchase a property. We want them to have insight to what a possible value is. This is also what we call a DNA indicator. And you'll see that as we look at the value at the bottom, it keeps shifting based on the appreciation rates in the area. If you will, is this a perfect science? Well, we know price per square foot is not a perfect science, In fact, we digress for a moment here. You can see the price per square foot on this property was $97 a square foot. Now it's $113. $98 up to $125. Look at, we're not seeing much of an average when people purchase these properties. All right, and we're also seeing, look at this one went from 123 a square foot to 110. This is 163. This is 95. This is 158. This is 125. Here's 104, 175. The average price per square foot is really all over the place. Now remember, all these properties were bought around the same time for around the same dollar value. But the price per square foot is pretty much all over the place. However, you're seeing a more consistent pattern here when you look at appreciation. Now we do have one property that depreciated. The key to the reason these properties appreciated is they acquired them far enough back that they're still what I call in the green. We're going to look at other reports where almost every single property is in the red. Let's just go ahead and click on this property and see what the remarks say to see if there's anything regarding this property being distressed. Because what's interesting about it is all the other properties went green and this one went red. And let's look down at the agent remarks section. Back in the market, had inspections done, no shoes or used the booty, so the house looks like it was pretty clean. So trying to find out, why did this property go negative when everybody else went positive? And I don't see anything in this particular the remarks section. However, it was, if you will, a red flag. You know, this property had something wrong with it, why it went down in value. They owned it from 99 all the way through 2012 and lost almost 1% per year when everybody else in the market appreciated. There might be a story here, so we're going to exclude that for right now. Our property value at this point is projected for $392,400. Now, this house that we're talking about, the subject property, is listed for sale right now for $415,000. The software has no idea what the seller wants, but it's a nice coincidence, isn't it, that the list price is $415,000 and the property at this moment is under contract. The software doesn't know what it's under contract for, but it's a really wonderful coincidence, which is why this idea works, to be able to show a home buyer or a home seller the projected range of value this could be just based on the movement in the economy. As we check some additional properties here, you can see we're not changing the value much because we're looking at appreciation in the corridor, and we're looking at an approximate $380,000 value. Now, you don't have to use all of these properties, but you can see it's barely changing our value if we check all of these properties. So we know this property, I don't know the pending price at this point, but I do know it's probably in that $380,000 to $390,000 price point. So going on a listing call, if you were to show a seller, this is not my opinion, these are not my numbers, all I know is these properties have what we call Bryan comps. They were purchased in a similar radius to the subject property. They were purchased around the same time as the subject property, and they were purchased for around the same dollar amount as the subject property, and now they've all resold. Traditional comps are based on style, and you can see here we have different kinds of styles in here, but it didn't really matter. Now if you only want to do the subject property style, then just uncheck, because this house is not a two-story, just uncheck the boxes. Alright, and our value is still over $380,000, and since this property sold in less than 30 days, it probably got in the $380,000 to $390,000 value. We're not looking for an exact number down here to tell a home buyer or seller that's the value, because as the creator of the program, I wouldn't stand by that. We're just trying to get you in a range. Imagine it's your first listing ever in your career, and a seller wants to list a house for a particular price, and you have no idea how to do an analysis. This will quickly, within moments, just like this video training, you could see we determine the value, subject to some different things about the property to know about it regarding supply and demand in the marketplace. But for what it's worth, we did a pretty good job right out of the gate coming up with a potential value using the concept of Bryan comps, which is one of our DNA indicators. Now we're going to move down just a little bit lower, and let's say there were no sold properties, and you want to discover what we call active Bryan comps. And you can see there's other houses that are for sale in the area that were purchased around the same time for around the same dollar amount that are attempting to sell. And you can see that people are asking almost 2.5% per person that are currently for sale. If we go down here at the bottom, we can see that the 11 properties that sold are getting about 1.6% growth rate, and these people are asking about 2.6. You might wonder why these houses have been on the market for a while or why they're not selling. Well, each of these properties is asking about 1% growth rate per year. The days in the market so far are 63, 173, and 73. And you can see that this one has not dropped its price. This one has dropped its price from 440 to 425. And this one has dropped its price from 389, dropped by 30,000, down to 360,000 essentially. What we know is the Bryan comps have said each of these active properties should probably be asking around 1.64% return per year. So a question when you're talking with a home seller or a buyer to ask them, why do you think these properties are not selling? After all, they're with a good brand. They've been out there for 173 days. They've got a lot of offices for that particular listing. Why is it not selling, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? This is where the sellers say they're probably asking too much per year as a rate of return. This is a wonderful illustration to have with, again, home buyers or sellers that ask a key question: why do you think it's not selling? One of the most important groups we want to talk about are what I called failed listings. Anything that was withdrawn or expired listings where the seller didn't complete the transaction with the realtor. And look at here, it's a very important thing. 2.10 is the appreciated attempted growth rate. We got people at 3% and 3%. Was it the marketing plan of these realtors why these houses didn't sell? Or were they trying to statistically outperform the marketplace? You can see here that the growth is really supposed to be just 1.6 in the area. But these people were trying to get a much higher number than the marketplace will return. Is it too high a number price per square foot or too high a number appreciation? In the end, it's both. The marketplace wouldn't let them go from 117 price per square foot, which they paid for it, up to 155, or 117 for this property up to 161. Remember, that's what they paid price per square foot back in 1999 or 1998. And they're now trying to ask this. Neither one of them was able to do that, and which is why they expired. And you can see that they were out there in this case for 102 days or 163 days, or in this 257 days. Regardless of all of these price adjustments, these guys dropped 10 grand, 15, 36 grand, etc. They still didn't go down to about the 1.5% growth rate. These people did, but they still didn't sell. And they own the property since the year 2000. And I'm recording this in the year 2013. And you can see that for 13 years, they did really, they paid $335, they $399. They can't even get what the average is as far as a growth. So the last group we want to show a seller, because these are all comps If there's no sold comps or no active properties, we can look for failed. Fails are incredible. They're powerful. We'll talk about fails later in a different video, but they're a powerful way to get people emotionally realize what they can't do. Our last group here are those that are under contract, and that is actually our subject property. And you can see they're asking 1.94% appreciation per year. They started at 415, dropped the price 10,000 to 405,000, and we know that they're asking 1.94 growth. Our software actually projected, without seeing the subject property, that the value is going to be about 380, I think possibly up to 390. Now, if you have never seen this property and you're looking at this data, sight unseen, you pretty much come up with, based on Bryan comps, this house is worth between 380 on the low side and 390. What a coincidence that it's on the market actually for 45 days, but when they drop the price, the property goes under contract. If the buyer paid full price, they paid around 1.94% appreciation. But I doubt after 45 days the buyer paid full price. So it's probably going to be in the range of the 380, 390-ish price point. The purpose of this presentation is simply to give you a ballpark and a paper trail to say that this is approximately what the value is, subject to the condition of the property and things like that. But you're going to see pretty good accuracy to projections based on movement of the economy. You don't have to be an economist to use this. You just have to understand the idea that sellers cannot statistically outperform the marketplace, and when they attempt to do so, because these are our failed listings, when they attempt to do so, they end up expiring, even though 100% of the expireds went through price reductions. They were statistically still trying to outperform the marketplace, get more money than the market will allow. All right. Thanks for watching.